So it's known by many names: terror, fright, fearfulness, horror, alarm, panic, agitation, trepidation, dread, dismay, and distress. Thanks, Allie, for this great list. Fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by belief that someone or something is dangerous or likely the cause of pain or a threat. It's also known by the name Chad. It's the topic of tonight's episode. Cue the intro.
You're listening to NT Paranormal After Dark. Nothing normal about it.
Welcome to episode 30. Today we're talking about fear. I think the subject came up the other day because we were going over the evidence for our last investigation. Is that correct, Sarah? And
yeah.
That place made you fearful?
Yeah.
Did it give you...
Trepidation.
Oh my God! Were you on our psychic episode? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we need to have another one of those.
Brad's drunk.
Did you have fearfulness? Did you experience terror, fright, alarm, panic, agitation?
I'm just going to ignore him.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Just in general.
Consternation. I had some consternation earlier, but, I took a laxative. I've been drinking.
Obviously.
So fear. We have a little experiment that we do on our investigations that we get razzed about a little bit, but usually I'll wait until one of you guys is alone and really into the zone, and then I'll come in and just scare the shit out of you.
Yep.
To see if it will ramp up the situation in any way to induce a psychological effect, as well as we've also heard that paranormal events can be attracted to fear. I guess that emotional energy or whatever. But I guess the real question is what exactly is fear? Everybody knows what it is to be afraid, either watching a horror movie or going into like a crazy situation or something like that. Everybody's been afraid. But if you really break it down to its essence, what exactly is fear? I mean, is it a chemical response in the brain? Is it totally an emotional response? Is it caused by external circumstances? What exactly is fear? And luckily I have somebody that's got psychology background and somebody with medical background to kind of break that down. So you guys y'all did a bunch of research into fear, probably a lot more than I did.
Define a bunch.
Enough to fill out at least an hour of podcast, I hope, while I drink bourbon.
Oh God, Sarah. She was like, I looked up one Google thing, and I was good.
Google is a good source of info. Google is where I got my info. That and I cheated.
Scholarly.
I had Allie do a bunch of my research for me and just send it to me.
I looked up
via
a bunch
text,
What's the
which I
difference
printed out
between
today.
whiskey and bourbon?
Bourbon is delicious. Whiskey tastes cheap.
Ooh, burn on Aaron. He loves whiskey. I'm going to tell him you said that.
He probably likes that single distilled. One of y'all should carry this show.
Dingle distill?
Mm-hmm.
Dingle.
It's knocking out that belly button smell that's on the...
Oh, yeah, because you rubbed your belly button smell on the...
Yeah. Actually, I disinfected all the mics, so...
Did you wash that one?
Yes. Is this whiskey or bourbon? This is...
That's why I asked.
This is bourbon. It's 12 years old. It's delicious. Adrenaline rush.
For fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess we'll get into it. Tell me about fear, guys. This is also going to be a really good episode because we're going to share a lot. Because later on I want to talk about the time a time in our lives when we were most afraid. The thing that scared us the most.
I was not prepared for that.
Shush. We're going to have a game show later. It's going to be a matching game.
Yay.
Whiskey burns more and bourbon is sweeter. I'm not sure if I've ever actually had bourbon.
It's the distilling process is what it actually is.
I don't like it. Yeah, just sniff it. You'll know if you like it.
Smells like nasty.
It smells like nasty.
Smells like leather, tastes like a barrel.
Pretty watered down.
Yeah.
Yeah, all your ice is melted.
I like it.
So how do you want us to start this off? Because she's got the
brain
physical.
effect, body effect. What do you want to...
Hey, that's a nice hat you're wearing there. That's for Halloween, isn't it? Is that your Halloween costume? Halloween is all about fear, by the way.
I thought it was just
I'm
about
going as
candy.
21 Pilots. They always wear the stupid.
I think you missed what that is, but okay. Tell me about fear. What does it do? What does it actually do
It
to the
scares
body?
you.
Wow. That
Good
was
job.
Google really worked out this time.
I mean, I know what it does to the brain. I wrote it down. She's got it for the rest of the things. But, okay. So, your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex control the chemicals that go into your brain for controlling the alertness of danger. So whenever something seems threatening or dangerous to you, it sends out hormones and chemicals and all sorts of craziness to your brain, and that makes you go, and you're scared.
Is it always by an external trigger?
No, not always.
What are some things? So okay, so we all.
The
I think
stuff's coming out of
everybody's.
my eye holes.
I think. Do what? Stop. So I think everybody's familiar with external triggers for fear. Like you walk, somebody jumps at you, or you go into a tense situation, or a predator's chasing you,
Yeah.
or scary movie, something like that. Those are all external triggers. I think everybody's familiar with those. But what would be internal triggers
If
for?
you have,
PTSD.
yeah, PTSD, OCD, any kind of and generalized anxiety disorder, any of that's just some chemical mishaps in the brain, which might have originally been attributed by an external factor sometimes, or maybe not. And then if you have any kind of an anxiety
But those would all be
disorder-
psychological triggers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying there's a chemical? Is there a chemical component to fear?
Well, it would just be the amount of chemicals that it's sending out. And
It's the same chemicals that are released. Like it's going to be dopamine,
serotonin.
So
dopamine.
so you think if you like purposely manipulated chemicals and hormones in somebody's body, like do you think somebody could produce like a
You
drug?
could scarecrow them.
Yeah, like you could produce a fear
Yeah,
toxin
probably.
sort of thing
Like I mean, you can have antidepressants that like SSRIs
that calm you down.
Yeah.
Like so, they just have to change what chemicals are being like
Fed into your body.
like a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Yeah.
So it's limiting the how much of that actually goes into your system. But you could do the same thing opposite. So yeah, you could effectively scarecrow somebody.
Awesome. Let's do this.
Thanks, Gotham.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. But
they like my mask. They think I'm cool.
I think you're cool too. That's also my mask.
It's mine now. What was your mask?
But I think fear plays an integral part of our lives. Like without fear, we wouldn't evolve or exist or be able to function. Like
Yeah, fear can be a healthy thing. So.
Yeah, I think people think of fear as like something that's
Detrimental.
detrimental, debilitating,
Negative, but not all.
Well, and you were talking about the amygdala. That's responsible for like your fight or flight responses. But there's actually a third in there that doesn't get
Fight,
mentioned.
flight, or freeze.
Yeah, freeze, and that's the thing that you hear about in the paranormal cases a lot. When we're talking to the witnesses, they're like, "Oh, this certain thing happened," and then I just I froze, like I felt like I couldn't move, and that in my head. A lot of people think that when there's something paranormal nearby, that it actually causes like some kind of supernatural paralytic. But there's natural components to that in the body where you don't just fight or flight. Sometimes you just freeze and basically play possum.
Because a lot of predators will leave you alone if you...
Right,
Yeah.
if you freeze. And so I think a lot of times when that unknown's going on, that is actually a trigger in your amygdala. I mean, does y'all's research back that up too?
Yeah, it was the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex are the ones in your
'Cause
brain.
that's what I
that-
do. Like-
What's the prefrontal cortex responsible for? I know the amygdala because we've done a bunch of stuff on that. I'm not familiar with what else the prefrontal cortex
does
does.
the same stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just saying that it's for your alertness, for like triggering your response to danger. That's pretty much
So
all it was.
well, I know the amygdala is directly responsible for injecting chemicals into the body, and so that plays off the emotions. So I think the prefrontal
With
cortex
the
is
hormones and the blood flow also.
right, and
Yeah.
so that controls that part. But I think the prefrontal cortex, its main function is to be sensory and interpretive of the data, and then it sends a signal to the amygdala that says, hey, you need to put more gasoline in the car because it's time to go.
Pretty much.
So they work in conjunction together, but they do different things, I think.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's one of the things I would really like to see on an EEG, where we produce a fear response and see how the brainwaves change during that.
Yeah.
Especially over the course of a paranormal investigation, where we get baseline lab studies where we're looking at people's brain activity the whole time, looking at the beta, theta waves, all that good stuff that's going on. And then, we do like some lab fear results where, we inject some horror real quick or whatever, and we see that. But then we just put people wearing that like you were doing at Needful Things, just sitting in the room and just let whatever happen. But without that, that sudden injected fear response, see how it differs, over the course of time as people get more tense while they're sitting there waiting in the dark.
Especially if they don't think that we're the ones doing it, if they don't think it's something that... If it's something they think might actually be happening, it might be a different response altogether, too.
Yeah, I found your response really interesting on the last investigation, fear-wise, because we've been to places where I've seen you tense and kind of scared, but for the most part, there's always that layer of logic, I'm always, you're with the group, we can run away, we can get away, things like that. But when she was at Needful Things, it was just me, her, and Dawn, and we left her there by herself in the front room. The only exit to the place was
blocked off.
Right.
Yeah, it was blocked.
So what was going on was between her and the exit, and she was completely alone in the dark. Me and Dawn were completely gone. The safety net was gone.
Yeah, they were
so
at a
to speak.
restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's kind of how it felt when we were in that women's prison in Granbury, because it wasn't that you guys were so far away; it just felt so isolated that it also you were totally alone.
Yeah, that door added that isolation to it.
Yeah,
but I don't see.
In that place, I felt like I could run if I'd had to. But in this place, I did not feel like I could.
Yeah,
check the window.
And we were
when
we were looking over the evidence. She was like, "Oh, I was acting like such a wiener," and I was like, actually. After watching the footage, she sat there. She didn't move. The most she did was she ended up calling me and Dawn on the phone, but she didn't get up, run, or what. She froze basically. But I was thinking, you could not have kept me in that. I would have ran. Because she was saying that she almost immediately called us, but then when we're looking back, you sat there a good half hour, 15 minutes. Before you called us, and then you were there another 15 minutes by yourself, but you never left your post at all. Me, I would have got up and turned on lights.
She's a good soldier. You're a bad one.
I absolutely would have turned on lights. I would have had a different response, but how...
But I was going to say, so I'm arachnophobic, and I tend to have that response when I see a spider. Instead of killing it or running away, I generally just stop what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I also have tried to make myself do that instead of the other things, because then you can think. It allows me to think instead of...
kind of come up with a plan.
If I start running, that sets a path in motion that's not going to stop. So I don't run, because I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if there's if you think if you don't move, it won't see you or something, or it'll just pass you everywhere. How was that different than when we were at Kyle? Because you were pretty scared that one time at Kyle. And I've seen you really scared at Antioch before. And at Antioch, you had to tell yourself not to run. So what was different about that fear situation versus another fear situation? Was it just completely autonomic, or was there some kind of conscious decision
there was some
that
conscious
overrode
thought.
it?
One, that I was alone, and I know that freaks people out. So I considered that a lot of that could have been in my head. So that was my first thought, was writing it off. But then, as you noted, it escalates. So that's when I kind of thought about running. But then I was like, no, it's in between me and the door, so I'm just kind of stuck here. So I thought...
What kept you from bursting out the door at the jail? Because
I wanted to catch something. Mine was to freeze and hopefully get something on camera.
So you were consciously overriding a fear, or it just wasn't that level yet?
I don't think it was quite that level yet, but it was to a level that I might have wanted to kind of sneak away, but I did kind of make the conscious decision of, well, if I can get something, I would like to get it. So
what would you say the differences between that experience were and the experience you had at Arlington Visitor Center? Because what happened to you up at Arlington Visitor Center, you basically bolted out the door.
Yeah.
Went all the way downstairs to find us and couldn't talk straight.
Yeah, what made
Yeah.
you run then and not run the other time? Because I don't know what my motivation
Because
was.
because from the outside looking in at the visitor center, you didn't see anything, you didn't hear anything. All that happened was your equipment malfunction and you were in the dark.
But everyone was a lot farther away.
yeah, I think it was probably more of the being so far away from everybody, because again, it would be the safety net wasn't there, and then it was the added, I might have completely messed up this set of mechanical engine.
So leading up to this episode, that's what I was thinking too. Was I noticed my fear response is different the more isolated I am,
Yeah.
as opposed to with the group. So when we go to Kyle, right, which is the place I hate going the most, like it gets me y'all have driven there with me before, like I get really quiet on the way there. I don't like it unnerves me, because it's probably one of the few places where I've seen something, and I'm not the only person that's seen something, and we're not the only people people on the internet have seen stuff there. Okay, and Antioch used to ramp me up really bad until we went through and kind of disproved everything. But anytime we're in a group, I don't really feel uncomfortable. Like I can be brave. I can step a few feet away and be like, "Hey, everybody, calm down." So
I feel the need to perform when we're in
I'm super brave when they're, and especially if there's people not in our group there.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we're
You
giving
have to act
a
like you're brave and you're professional.
Right.
and you know what
Like
you're-
we're giving a tour or something.
Yeah.
So there's in numbers there. I have a different response to fear than when I'm isolated or more isolated or separated.
I think that's normal.
Yeah.
It sounds the same with you guys. And like, as long as I have other people around me, I can keep that fear in check, even if I'm trying to be afraid.
Unless that other person is also terrified, they might actually like up your fear level.
Right, which is when you get kind of into the group hysteria
Yeah.
sort of thing, which I don't know if we have or haven't fallen into that sort of category.
I have before, when it was just me and Allie going out.
Oh yeah, one of you starts to panic, so you both
Well, we just
panic.
kind of try and hide. Like, we play a game going up there called What If, and you just imagine the scariest scenario you can imagine, and then you'd say that out loud. So we'd actually try and ramp each other up.
Oh yeah.
Because the point of that was to be afraid.
See, I know when I was doing it with my mom, it was just the two of us, and we didn't ever have an issue until my brother joined us once, and he's quick to panic, quick to freak out and run away. And so he would go to the same places we had gone to, and the second that he would start panicking, it would kind of set the group on edge, and we wondered, does he see something we haven't seen? And then it would cause just an escalation of fear.
Right.
So I guess it just depends on the group you're in. But yeah, I would say the more isolated or the
I'd
more
say me and Sarah fall into that category since it started out as just me and you going out. You know, like the very first time we went out to do it or whatever, Steven and Allie were in the car,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to get out of the car, which made it more tense for us. So that first trip out, we were a little ramped up, and we weren't used to each other yet. You know, we hadn't.
Yeah, that was one of the first times we'd hung out.
Yeah, we didn't hang out in that type of capacity before. And then the next time we went out, it was literally just me and you. But we had drove up there together. We had talked the whole time. That we had gotten to know each other a little bit better in that period of time. So we were more comfortable with what was going on. And so the second experience was a way different experience than the first experience. And then we did a couple of other little things like that. And even in those early days when we would get ramped up like that, even in like those first 4 investigations, there's a big difference between that first time me and you went out and the fourth time me and you went out.
Yeah.
And then my sister went with us we went back to Antioch with Katie, is what happened. And all of a sudden it was like somebody hit the reset button, because and it wasn't I thought it was weird because I was talking about isolation earlier, but introducing a new person into the group made the anxiety go up, because my sister, she is, you know, like a true believer sort of person. Like, you know, I'm real logical, real science. She's in tune. Like she feels things and knows what's going on premonitions, stuff like that. Like, she's in tune with it. And so even though I don't necessarily put a lot of stock in that, having her there,
kind of affected
and doing that sort of shtick in front, still, it's like, well, and it's, what does your husband say? Like, even if you don't believe in it,
you probably shouldn't fuck with it.
Yeah.
Since it's inviting trouble.
Yeah, and so, okay with the herd, vulnerable, alone. Yeah, and so there's that herd mentality. But what's funny is that false sense of security is also what gets the slow gazelle grabbed up by the lion, because it thinks it's safe.
Yeah.
So it's not paying attention to anything
And it always
going
trips
around.
like a camper in Jason.
Yeah.
So I guess that goes back to the fear is a healthy thing. Like, you gotta have a little bit of fear
like
in
people
there.
that are afraid of heights. Like, that's a normal human fear. If you're afraid of spiders, that's a normal. Even snakes, to a point, because they can be venomous.
Yeah.
So would you say most fears, kind of like if you follow the timeline back through humanity, are probably rooted in something?
I wouldn't say most, but
I guess it would probably depend on the individual person. You couldn't say as a whole, since we don't all share the same phobias or fears, but I mean, maybe there's probably an underlying cause originally.
So what does fear do to the body? We know specifically what fear kind of does to the brain. It gets all in your frontal lobe and it makes your amygdala do stuff and shift gears. What does it do to your body? Like, what kind of effects do you got going on?
okay, so you have your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous system.
What is okay? English?
So your parasympathetic nervous system controls homeostasis and the body at rest. Yeah, your sympathetic nervous system controls your fight or flight response.
Or freeze.
Yeah. So it does a bunch of different things, like your bladder and your bowels. It makes them evacuate. So people that pee themselves because they're afraid, that's your sympathetic nervous system.
Is there a reason for that? Like, is there a logic to why your body does that?
It decreases urinary outputs, so it's not using as much blood. So it's the opposite of hypothermia. So if you're hypothermic, your body draws blood from your limbs and puts them in the middle. So it's protecting those.
So basically what it's doing is it's shutting down anything that's not vitally important.
Then, and it's making sure you can...
It's making you more efficient as an is.
It's going to raise your heart rate. It's going to dilate. It's going to dilate your pupils so you can see more. It's going to decrease your stomach motility. You're going to have more saliva.
So fear can actually more saliva.
Sorry, it decreases saliva.
Decreases saliva.
Yeah.
That makes you more efficient at getting away. I guess it decreases your weight so you can run faster.
It decreases everything that needs blood flow.
Right.
And it shunts that all to your limbs so you have the ability to run if you need to. So it's running your
flail.
heart, your lungs, your limbs.
Okay. And eyes.
Brain.
So basically fear can actually give you
superpowers.
Well, yeah, that's adrenaline rushes.
But it sounds like it also actually increases your sensory acuity.
Yeah.
Like you
can hear things just slightly better.
It's not just that it feels like things, people that say they have like an adrenaline rush or they get scared, it's like, oh, that crash, it seemed like it took a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's because your brain is actually functioning faster and taking in more of the little moments so that you can react better. So you are actually reacting faster. You said you can see better, you can hear better, you can probably smell better, taste and feel better. So actually when you're and so, a lot of times when we're talking about the investigations and people being afraid, and it's like, oh, you might be seeing things just because you were ramped up or you're afraid, that can be a result. There's a lot of evidence to show that, you are going to see things that aren't there, hear things that aren't there. But also, from the data, like, your body is actually getting more acute. So you may actually be seeing things that other people aren't seeing at the time, or hearing things other people aren't hearing at the time that are actually there because you were becoming more acute and more astute to the surrounding. Acute. I think I'm pretty cute.
Oh, we know you do. But yeah, so it originates in the spinal cord and your medulla. That's where the
medulla oblongata.
Yes.
So this is the autonomic nervous system. So you don't control this. It's all
autopilot.
Yeah,
It's something you don't do stuff with.
And then some people have crosswires. Like, they think people that are like adrenaline junkies, a lot of times they're oddly crosswired with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
They have opposite responses to what you should normally have.
Yeah, because like what I read, fear is supposed to be unpleasant.
Yeah.
But people like us
Seek out.
We seek out, like, we like the feeling. Maybe not so much in the moment.
Oh, I do.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I enjoy it. It's like my tattoo. You know, I was talking to Mike about. He's like, well, why are you getting a tattoo if you don't like it? Well, I like the end result of my tattoo. I don't necessarily like the process of
See, I like
getting it.
in
It does.
the moment
It does
being
hurt.
terrified, and
That's why I watch horror movies.
I do to an extent, but there's a limit to it. You drop me in Kyle, and if you guys just left me there, that I would not like that. That I would not be like, oh, that was a good time that we went out there. Dope. No, I would hate you forever. That would be horrible.
Don't be a baby.
Yeah, that's the people who love horror movies and love roller coasters and love going out and doing crazy things.
I love
in the
horror
middle of the
movies.
night.
I love roller coasters.
Yeah.
I like going out at night. I like doing things that scare the living shit out of me. But yeah, I do have like that threshold, like what I can't, like things I can't do, and I guess those would be things that are phobias, like those irrational fears, which is different than fear, right?
Yeah.
So what is the difference between fear and a phobia?
Well, a phobia is excessive and irrational fear. So fear would be there's the response, the chemicals, I'm afraid, fight or flight, and flee, blah, blah, blah. A phobia would be something that is so excessive that it's kind of overloaded your brain to
It's
the
like
point.
me waking up in the middle of the night to shake my bed down for spiders when
Yeah.
I know damn well there are no spiders
Yeah.
in my bed.
It is something that's just so far beyond just your normal fear that it can be debilitating. It can completely alter the way you live your life, and it's just extreme and also irrational.
Like people that are germaphobes,
Yeah,
usually end up OCD about cleaning
just
their house.
constantly washing their hands.
Right,
or
and
constantly-
it's not actually in the act of doing that doesn't actually make you any safer.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
one of the hallmarks of OCD is that you're afraid if you don't complete the ritual, something bad will happen.
Yeah.
Like Edison will die.
Yeah.
Or in my case, I wash the dishes in multiples of 3 because I'm worried about the soap left on the dishes. It will poison the next person who uses it.
See, I've always wondered if I was on the spectrum of OCD because of the way I do certain things, like my organization. But
I think you're just irritating.
I think it's a learned behavior that I've done over time because it makes dealing with things easier. But like if I let those things go, like I don't have tics or freak out or anything like
Yeah.
that, I'm just irritated.
See, I don't have
'Cause
OCD, but I have obsessive compulsions where if I don't finish something, it will drive me absolutely bonkers until I finish it.
But I think that's pretty much anything or anybody.
Most everybody exhibits some sort of
Yeah.
compulsive behavior.
Like when I go out to eat at a restaurant, when I'm finished, I have to stack the plates. I have to put them in a stack. I have to put the trash in. I have to. And if I don't, when we leave the restaurant, I keep trying to go back into the restaurant to stack the goddamn plates. I don't know when or why that started, but it's a compulsion that I have now, and it's irritating.
Say compulsion.
Compulsion.
Thank you.
Tell me about your father. No.
Because I know mine started when I was a kid, and if I don't do the thing that I have to do, it's all I can think about.
Yeah.
So I think Kristin looked up the. I'm trying to think how I want to do this. She looked up the top 10. Yeah, let's go with the top 10 phobias and what they are,
Okay.
because I looked up like
All of them?
100 phobias, and I want to test y'all with the phobia matching game. See if
God.
y'all can figure out what it is. But I'll just use the stuff that's not in the top 10. The stuff that's harder to identify.
I don't want to.
Oh, you can do it. You're gonna do it.
You got this. So you want me to just list out what the
Because
10
the loser has to do something really horrible at the next
you have to
investigation.
go off into an abandoned prison by yourself and sit in there naked.
So all the stuff you already make me do, except for the naked part.
You gotta be naked. That's the difference.
Wait. Okay. So let's start from 10 and go up
Okay.
to number 1.
We'll see if I can actually pronounce some of these. But according to the 2018 update, these are the top 10 common phobias. So the first one is the trypophobia,
Yeah.
which is the fear of
Holes.
And then there's aerophobia, the fear of
Fear of
flying.
flying.
I don't know if it's myso or mesophobia,
mesophobia.
but the
Germs.
And then there's claustrophobia. We all know that one. Closed
Small spaces.
There's astrophobia, which is the fear of thunder and lightning. That's number 6 now. Number 5 is, I'm going to say cynophobia. It's the fear of dogs. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it.
Cynophobia.
Yeah, there you go. And then 4 is agoraphobia, open spaces.
Going outside.
3 is acrophobia, the fear of heights. 2 is...
Or acronyms.
Oh, God. 2 is ophidiophobia, which is the fear of snakes. And then number 1, as always, will forever be arachnophobia, the fear of spiders.
It's a good movie.
It's because spiders are terrifying.
That's
Spiders
awesome.
don't bother me that bad. Unless they're enormous.
See, I'm sorry. I'm scared. The smaller they are, the more they worry me.
Because they can get in your ears.
Well, I can see the
that's
big
the thing
one.
is phobias are defined as an irrational fear.
Yeah.
But I think spiders, snake, I think all of those are rational fears.
Yeah.
But I guess for it to be classified as a phobia is your behavior
extreme.
towards that fear.
Yeah.
Like with her response to seeing spiders on a camping trip is completely unreasonable, where I get screamed at and told that I can stick my head in a part of my body where my head shouldn't
There were like
fit.
30 spiders in our tent.
There were actually like 50, and they were
Ew.
daddy long legs, which aren't technically
I don't
spiders.
care.
They're fine.
I don't care.
Yeah,
They're arachnids.
It would be the difference between just going, oh, I'm scared of that, and it completely just like me with.
Amelia wants to know, why are so many people scared of spiders?
I don't know. I know why I'm
There's
scared
too
of
many
spiders.
lies.
And that's a good. It's a good question to think about too, because
Yeah.
logically, the percentage of spiders that are poisonous versus venomous. Sorry,
I don't know. Have you tried to
Jesus.
eat a spider? Maybe you ate it and it was poisonous.
but the percentage of spiders that are venomous to
Versus-
the ratio of spiders that are
same with
non-venomous
snakes.
or helpful.
Yeah,
Same
people
with
are
snakes
terrified
too.
of snakes.
But why is that fear there, and why do so many people have it? Do you think?
I don't like spiders because they have too many legs. And that's
Yeah, I
the same
think they
reason I
just
don't like
look wrong.
millipedes. They just have too many legs.
Ugh.
Like,
Yeah.
I know,
Millipedes.
Yeah.
I know I have a specific incident that made me scared of spiders, but
Okay.
I don't know why most people are scared of spiders.
Share. What was your
many
incident?
Well, that's
What happened?
I told you we had that
Tell
sandbox
us.
when I was a little kid, and we'd flip it over and dump it out in summer and turn it into a little pool. Well, we went to go flip it over one year, and there was a black widow egg sac or two under it, and it exploded on me and my dad.
Ew.
And it was fucking horrifying.
Emilio says, you know that you're never more than 10 feet away from a spider.
No.
Okay.
I've been working on my fear. I've actually started leaving them alive. Like,
Steven says spiders look and move in an alien way. So,
Yeah, it's
so
the
the
too
way
many
said-
legs.
Right. It doesn't seem natural to us,
It
you know,
just
is bipedals.
skitters and blah.
But like I've worked on my phobias in a way where I learn about it as much as I can, and then I try and desensitize myself.
What is that? Aversion? No.
Aversion therapy is making the person be around it.
Right.
So
Oh, so I did get that right.
Yeah.
It's aversion therapy? I
it's-
thought that's where they try to make you not gay.
Hang on.
No,
that's
what?
two. Yeah,
Exposure therapy. That's the one where you
Exposure
are
therapy.
constantly on it.
but no, sorry.
Isn't that where
aversion-
you get arrested?
No. Exposure therapy is constantly being around it. Aversion therapy is to try to get you away from it.
I might have had too much bourbon. Anyway,
But
does aversion therapy actually work?
No.
Is it?
no, it's the what is it called? Exposure therapy.
No.
Okay, does exposure therapy work? That's
It's
the one.
worked
I'm
a little bit for me, like in my response to it.
See, it has
in
not
your
worked
response,
for me.
but it doesn't eliminate the fear.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
It has not helped me
I'm still
whatsoever
god
with
awful
my
terrified,
fears.
but I've learned how to react to it better.
See, I have so many like if I listed off everything I was like phobic about, you would wonder how I like function
Oh, I
in the
already
daily
do.
world. Wonder how I function, or
yeah.
Oh,
I only have 3 phobias. I have a lot of fears, but only 3 phobias.
I know one.
Yeah.
I know one of them.
You know 2 of them. Because I'm terrified of red wasps, too. I fucking
Oh.
hate them.
I just forget about that because that's not a real fear.
I have pediophobia, fear of dolls. I have spexophobia, which is the fear of wasps. And I have agoraphobia, which is going out into a huge, open, dark space. And I don't know what you call it, because it's not technically the agoraphobia. I'm terrified of the ocean. It's dark. It's
There's a word
deep.
for that. I forget what it is.
Yeah, it's called common sense.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my god.
dark
The
and
ocean's
Water
not
you can't see
scary.
the bottom of
Yes.
is horrible.
Big babies.
That's what it is. It's
I only have one
deep
phobia.
water. Spiders.
Yeah. Like I don't like heights, but I'm not like phobic.
Oh. See, I can't go into like a lake that you can't see the bottom of. I'm not going in that fucking water.
And I used to be able to, and nothing bad ever happened to me, but I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
Ever. It's horrible. And it's all because of that video game I played on N64, Shadows of the Empire, where you're fighting the little octopus monster creature in the murky water, and you can't really see it, and there's this dangerous beak coming at you, and you're like, get away from the beak, and then the little thing grabs you, and then you turn off the N64 and you never swim in deep water again.
So yeah, I guess that's one reason why you might be terrified of deep oceans.
Okay, so y'all want to hear what? Let's see if you guys can guess what some of. Let's go into the deep cuts here.
The deep web. No.
Let's see, what do I got here?
Eggs.
These are oddly specific. Pseudodoti sigaphia.
Pseudonyms? Is it a fear?
God, no
pseudonym?
clue.
I don't know. I guess unless you speak Latin, there's no way you're going to get this. A fear of choking often after a bad eating experience.
Okay.
Okay.
Bathophobia.
The bath?
Bath? Showers?
Fear of depth can be anything associated with
Oh,
depth,
that's it.
lake,
Oh.
tunnels, and caves. So you have bathophobia.
Not really. It's just dark water that I can't see the bottom of. I'm fine with caves.
Shut up, we named it.
Shh. You hush your mouth. I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
God, I can't say some of these. Wow. Lagrirophobia.
Oh, wait. I know this
Fear
one.
of Greer Island.
No, it's... I used to know this one.
Fear of the song Lagrange.
I don't remember. What is it?
Lagirophobia. Yeah, I said it right.
I don't remember. I used
Fear
to
of
know this.
ligers.
That would be a fear of loud noises.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I did know that one. I forgot what it was, though.
Technophobia.
Fear of technology.
Oh, God, I was hoping one of y'all would say fear of techno music.
I'm fear of dubstep.
It's fear of technology.
No dubstep.
Chronophobia.
Fear of time passing.
Yes, fear of the future. Skexophobia.
Fear of sick people? I can't remember. No, that's not
Fear
it.
of Skeksis. Fear of the movie
Oh,
The Dark
I said
Crystal.
it wrong. It's sphexiphobia.
Spexophobia
That's
is
wasps.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what I have.
Okay.
Yeah, we knew that one. If you say it right.
Ergophobia. I have this.
Fear of ergonomics.
Fear of dirt.
Fear of Ergon, the dragon.
It's a fear of work,
Oh.
often due to social or performance anxiety. I don't know that I have a phobia of it. I just fucking hate going to work.
Social anxiety. We all do. It's fine.
This one's good.
Fear of saltwater taffy.
Taphophobia. No, this is a good. And this is
I
actually
stick by what I said.
fear of saltwater taffy.
I haven't. What's the whole thing?
Taphophobia.
Tapestry.
Edgar Allan Poe had this.
Fear of being walled in somewhere, buried alive.
That's it.
Oh.
Let me try clues with some of these.
Yeah, because.
Okay.
Was it walled in or buried alive?
Yes.
Buried alive.
Okay.
Which would be the same.
It's not the same.
Okay. Buzz in if you think you've got the answer, okay?
Wait, how do we buzz?
Just slap the table.
You slap the other player.
No.
You would say your name. Ombraphobia.
Fear of cowboys.
No.
Oh, bad hombres.
Many little kids have this.
Fear of clowns. No.
That's claustrophobic.
Oh. No.
Fear of the closet.
May would be a bad time of year for you.
The fuck's in May?
May, April, spring.
Fear of rain.
That's it.
Oh.
Fear of rain.
God. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I know.
I love rain. Who is phobic of rain? Guess I drowned as a child.
Disposophobia.
Fear of the garbage.
Fear of recycling.
Y'all are close. These people would often be found on hoarders.
Fear of throwing things away.
Yes.
Oh.
Photophobia.
Light.
Fear of light. You didn't buzz in,
Shut
so
up!
I get it.
She was busy drinking. So there's
Says the guy with the bourbon.
but here's the crazy thing. So if a phobia is like a bad reaction to fear, like taking it too far, so any fear can be a phobia. But these have if this is like if glossophobia is the fear of public speaking, right? These are all really narrowed down fears that people overreact to.
Yeah.
There's like 300 on this list of classifications of phobias where people have taken things to an extreme. Like that's completely insane when you think about it.
Well, the thing said that there's an estimated 19 million just America, United States, estimated 19 million people with at least one phobia. So that's a lot of people.
I concur, Professor. An estimated 9.1% of Americans, more than 19 million people, have a specific phobia.
Ooh.
And many people have more than one specific phobia.
That's
Fear
what
of
I said, at
concurring.
least one.
Fear of concurring.
How dare you agree with...
Fear can make the object causing fear look closer than it appears.
Ooh.
Oh, and that's what you were talking about. Fear can affect your spatial recognition. So you might be more alert to things that are actually going on. So, in your opinion, in the last investigation, do you think your fear was making you more astute to things that were actually going on, or do you think you're
drawn in like a magnet?
Or do you think your fear was causing you to have experiences that you weren't really having?
I think it was making things that probably would have been less noticeable more noticeable.
I do too, because I've seen the footage. There is stuff happening. For once, like we've got it.
I told you I heard noises.
Recorded.
Told you there was something walking up to that doorway.
My favorite part of that is when you get on the phone and you call us and we go, "We're not laughing at you."
Emilio with the one that we were talking about earlier, the fear of long words. It's ridiculous.
Yes. I can't even. It's hip hop anonymous.
Hip hop anonymous.
Hip hop.
You
hip
give
hop
him all the
anonymous.
easy ones.
Hello, Marianne.
Monstrous quick. Yes.
Quippidid like a That's how it feels.
But I think that fear is a very valuable tool to our paranormal investigations. And I had another group call me out for doing that. Like, and I don't do it like when stuff is going. Like, if we're getting stuff normally, I let that ride. Like, I would never interrupt an experiment with that, which is what basically I got accused of. From another group is, oh, you just go in and you jack with everybody and you get them wound up, and you're basically making yourself not credible. I'm like, no, that is not true at all. Like
it's an experiment, damn it.
We actually wait until a lull, and I'm waiting for a time when you guys can actually pull it back on me. Is the thing, but I'm always kind of like expecting it because I've got it coming at this point because. Like 60 investigations later.
Oh, I'm just gonna punch you in the nuts.
Ooh.
I remember
I did punch you on one investigation.
I remember the very first time that I deliberately did something to you too, at my sister's house.
Yeah. Some of the people want to know why you didn't bring enough bourbon for the entire class.
You didn't earn it.
Not for us, for our viewers.
It's delicious bourbon, by the way.
It's not delicious. It's freaking terrible.
See, and that's why I didn't bring effing bourbon for you, because you would just sit there and trash talk my bourbon.
Yeah. Trash talking
But
bourbon.
no, I do remember when we were at your sister's house, because I didn't know there was 2 doorways to get into her living room. And one of them was covered by a blanket, and I was standing in front of their couch, and you just stuck your arm through that blanket. And it was terrifying. And not nice. It was not a nice thing to do. What are you doing?
I threw away those notes because I didn't need those anymore, and then I grabbed the wrong thing of notes. So, I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with like what the top 10 fears are. And it's always like public speaking, and then everybody's always surprised that number 2 is death. Blah 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 blah. So they took a big survey, and this was a U.S. survey, and I found it interesting because it was done in 2017. And they came up with a new list of the most common fears that people had, and it really surprised me. And it turned out there were over 3 dozen things above death. These are the things.
There are people more afraid of than death.
Just what do you think? What do you think now? Remember, this is in the U.S. in 2017, election year, everything. So they took this poll at the perfect time, and I got the percentages, and these are people that scored afraid to very afraid on it. What do you think the number one fear is in the United States in 2017?
Not having enough Facebook friends.
God, I don't even know.
Something to do with
That's
social
on the
media.
list. That's not number one.
Damn it.
We'll see who scores higher.
Change? Fear of change? Are we playing Family Feud now? Is that what this is devolved into?
Yeah. Whoever gets higher. Let's see.
Fear of being alone, fear of change.
Hold on. You went with fear of
Hey,
change.
you only get one guess.
I get all the guesses.
Fuck you.
You suck a fat one.
Change is a little too broad.
Is financials on there? Like fear of being poor or fear of not having enough money?
Yeah,
Was fear of a new president on there? Nuclear war? These are some of the answers I'm getting.
So the number one fear in the U.S. in 2017 was corrupt government officials.
I thought it was going to be Thanksgiving dinner with the family.
Same thing.
74.5% of Americans said corrupt government officials were the scariest, was what they were worried about. Number 2 was American Healthcare Act / Trump Care.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was the number 2 thing. Okay, so now that we're kind of on this track, give me one. What do you think people are more afraid of in the U.S. than dying? Dying should be, I mean, logically, think about that. Like, oh, I could go outside today and die. Like, you should be afraid of that. What are people more afraid of than that happening?
I would say a lot of things. I'm not sure, though. I know a lot of people that just want to be dead. So I'd say it's still...
Did you say fear of being broke?
Yeah, I was like fear of...
Or like financial ruin?
That's number 11.
Uh-huh.
Economic financial collapse.
So what's number 3?
I want to see if you guys can... What do you think people are more afraid of than going completely broke?
Catherine said nuclear war.
That's on here.
Xenophobia on there. Fear of foreigners.
Nuclear weapons attack was 21. Okay,
Apocalypse.
so let's start from
Any
economic
apocalypse.
financial collapse. Number 10, that was number 11. Number 10 was air pollution. 44% of people were worried about that. 9, North Korea using weapons. 47%. 8, global warming and climate change. 48% of the U.S. population
Is more afraid of that than death.
Is more afraid of that than death, which
one
the
thing leads
media
to the
wouldn't
other.
have you think that. Number 7, the U.S. will be involved in another world war. Number 6, and this is going to play into your podcast after this podcast, but high medical bills.
Ha!
5, not having enough money for the future.
See, that counts. Number 5.
4, pollution of drinking water. 3, pollution of oceans, rivers, and lakes.
I don't drink tap water anyway.
2 was healthcare.
See, I had number 5 because I said financial, like not having enough money.
Loneliness and civil war.
I'm
Yeah,
embarrassed that this is on the list, but number 13 is terrorist attack. People are still, like, terrified.
Loneliness has to be pretty...
Domestic
Like,
terrorism.
in America, I would think that would be a high one.
And I'd say domestic
being
terrorism
alone.
is still high
It's
up
on
on the
there.
list.
And it's got the percentages for it, but the U.S. is really...
Scared.
Yeah, worried about our
No,
political
we said
climate.
terrorism like 19 different ways on here. Nuclear weapons attack, terrorism, cyber terrorism,
Yeah.
financial terrorism, terrorist attack.
I see 17 and 18 is people I
That's
love
actually
dying.
a good insight into why our political structure
The
is the way
ACA
it is
is
right
29. Pandemic.
What's the last? Oh, racial hate crime is right above dying.
Sharks. How are sharks scarier than death?
Because pain from getting eaten? Oh.
Losing my data, photos, or other important documents.
now. I thought that one was hilarious because that is a legitimate fear.
Well, that happened to me this year, and it was a fucking nightmare.
And I don't know that that actually happened to you like 2 years ago.
Okay, well, it feels very recent.
It's still fresh in
Is
my
it worse
mind.
than death?
No, but I lost like 2 years worth of pictures of my kids, and it was aggravating.
I think what that list goes to show is that a staggering amount of people have irrational fears, though. Like, because fears of terrorism and things like that are pretty irrational, because the odds of that actually happening to you are kind of nuts. But there is this...
Being alone isn't on here.
There's this kind of, like, global, or at least this is a nationalist, like a national feel.
Sharknado.
Tornadoes was on there too.
Yeah, it is. Tornadoes is on there. Sharknado is not specifically on there, but I've seen 2 of them.
But people share this like common thread of irrational fears or whatever that don't seem productive, while short-term fear seems like it does have productive benefits to the body. Like it increases your heart rate, it makes your senses sharper, things like that.
Yeah.
It makes you make better decisions in some in some cases. Well,
Helps
I
your
mean it does.
reflexes.
It increases blood flow to your brain and things like that. So you make better physical decisions like in the moment, but the irrational fears, the long-term ones, they seem to only have detrimental effects.
Well, one of the things that I was going to say about the short term, or whatever we were just saying, is that sometimes it causes the opposite effect of psychosis. Instead of it pumping all this stuff into your brain and then you making wise decisions, sometimes it does the complete opposite.
Roll down for Steven's comment.
What?
Fearing death is kind of silly. It's 100% going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I guess it would be the way that it happens is what people would actually be afraid
Oh, no,
of.
I'm afraid of death in general. Not existing terrifies me.
Yeah, it is pretty horrible.
I don't really care.
But when I was looking up, like, what I wanted to look up was
Bombings and shootings are actually still on that list.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this mass shootings was like number 20 or something like that.
what I was actually looking for was experiments in things that had to do with fear, where people had done studies, specific studies on fear, and the only thing that really came up was this really weird experiment that they did in like 1950 something. Way too recent for this to be okay, but it was called the Little Albert experiment. It's completely unethical, but they took a
Oh, they made him free to stuffed animals. I remember that one from psychology class.
no.
They made him free to like soft things. They did that too, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they did that. They did that with a few things, but the first thing they started with was loud noises. And so, like, what they would do is they would do, like, some kind of negative thing. Like, they would hurt the baby while making every time a loud noise happened to cause, like, a negative
fear of loud
impact.
noises.
Right. And so, what they found out is that you can induce you can
Pavloved him, yeah.
You can induce a fear in somebody. So every time they made a loud noise, the kid acted like he was getting hurt, and so he was actually feeling physical pain from the loud noise.
And that causes, of course, the PTSD later in life.
Right, that
Post-traumatic stress
that poor
But
kid
they did that
grew up-
making them scared. Like, they did one where they made the kid scared of rats. And they did it with, like, stuffed animals.
Yeah.
Keep a straight face while talking.
Amelia says, if you think you've lived a truly good and spiritual life, then why fear death? Well, I guess it depends on what you think comes actually after
Yeah,
death
yeah.
and what your personal beliefs are.
I think nothing happens afterwards, and that's freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
The thought of not existing. Like, I
Just
don't like
not
that.
being anymore. Dun,
I mean, hell's scarier, but... well, the way I was raised.
Fear of Deadpool, she's scaring me.
Boo.
Hide it.
No. No, touch my eye holes.
So that was one thing. That was one thing that came up. Also with the MK Ultra thing,
Oh, God,
they
yeah.
were inducing fear in people to see if it brought out like psychic abilities. And so, while they didn't prove psychic abilities, I guess it was that acute sensory that you get from it. They were able to be more like perceptive when being afraid or whatever, and so that's why they were trying to induce fear in them, and they were trying to do drugs that messed with that part of the fear. You are driving me insane,
Am I bothering
Fidget McGee. Yes, I'm really afraid of you right now.
You have a phobia of fidgeting?
Do you think fear is detrimental to our experiments, like what we do? Because
I think it can be.
Yeah.
oh, I got a little off track. I was talking about the experiments. So, like one thing a lot of the paranormal investigators say is that the spirits in paranormal activity are attracted to energy of people, right? And the big thing is they talk about, oh, the body gives off a certain level of EMF, which is actually 0.02. It is the normal baseline for that. It's like something very unmeasurable, negligible. I was looking to see if anybody had done any experiments to see if that increases or decreases, if there's any kind of measurable energy change in a person when they're afraid.
Right.
So I don't remember the name of the experiment, and I lost the link, but somebody had done that, and there was no change in that baseline or whatever. But I always wonder if there's some kind of way to measure the energy, because they're talking about emotional energy, and is fear a more, if spirits or paranormal are just attracted to emotional energy, why is fear the one that gets the, like, why wouldn't, it's kind of like Monsters Incorporated.
I was just about to say, it's
yeah,
like
y'all
Monsters,
remember
Inc.
right? And they found out laughter was better.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Like if we went in not scared, right? And the reason I was thinking about that is because I noticed most of our really good evidence that we have when we show people, it's during the daytime when we're not like stressed out and stuff like that. It's not the creepy evidence. It's the, hey, check this out. We just happened to run across this thing when we weren't like feeling anxious or anything. And I wonder if that energy is better for them to be attracted to or something like that, or if the fear,
or does it have anything to do with it at all?
Yeah, I don't. What are your opinions on that?
I don't understand if it's just going toward energy, why it would be specifically fear. I think that goes more toward the people are just afraid, so they'll see more things. So yeah, that's my opinion on it, but I can see a huge block of text there, but I can't read any of it.
Yeah, he says, Amelia says, I think it depends on, and we said this kind of before, I think it depends on how you look at the data. Is the fear making you see and hear stuff that isn't there, or is it heightening your senses to see what's always there but you can't normally see? It all depends on your approach to the data.
Like I told you during the Needful Things investigation, I walked up to you and I said, I'm wrecked for this investigation. I'm too hyped up. I can't be sure of anything I'm seeing or hearing at this point. I'm too nervous. I think at that point it was a detriment.
How do you know that line once you've crossed it? Because, I see like a lot of other groups going in, and they're all like really jumpy, but they never stop and say, oh, I shouldn't continue this investigation because I'm causing a false positive.
I don't know how I knew. I just knew I was over the.
At what point?
Line.
So observing
somebody
else.
Stop after the first time and like take a step back and take some deep breaths and then go again. Because if you're amped up, then after you're amped up,
but
it doesn't matter.
But if it's attracted to that fear, you're basically starving.
Again, I don't know why you would be
think
specifically attracted to fear. That just doesn't make any sense.
But I was so hopped up that I wasn't going to be able to separate reality and stuff we needed to record and document from BS.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when I need to go, this needs to be out of my hands because I can't.
But that's the job of the equipment, is to document. Like you can sit there and overreact all day long, but then when we go back and we watch the footage, and then if we've set up our experiments right, like we're capturing everything from every angle, and we're capturing it on multiple recorders, and we're using different pieces of equipment, then even though you're ramped up and having an experience, we can go back and, like, we'll never, like we always say, the personal experience isn't evidence. It's valid, but that's not the evidence.
I think the only thing that would really be affected by it would be any kind of audio you get, because when you're afraid, sometimes you can whisper under your breath.
You're breathing heavily.
You start having the subconscious thing.
That kind of stuff
but
would be
But that's what the
affected.
multiple angles of video are for, to see if you're talking. So,
But what if you're talking over EVPs?
Well, then you're a bad investigator, and I see a lot of people doing that.
But I just knew that I did not think it was a helpful amount of fear at that point.
Yeah.
No, and I'm not knocking you. That's good that you can call that, and I actually agree. I'm just throwing out the opposite idea that if you set up your experiments right, then it is okay to overreact, because we've shown no proof that emotional energy or that response, or like if you watch Ghost Adventures, like they overreact to stuff, but they call themselves out. They're like, no, we want to react to it because we want the spirits to know that we notice them so that we get more. And it's a valid mode of thinking. My flaw in their logic is the way that they record their investigation. They don't have multiple angles all the time. They're not constantly monitoring what they're doing, things like that. I think if you set your experiments up right, then I think it allows for you to overreact and test that theory, because we haven't seen any evidence to show that doing that does ramp up any of the activity, because we haven't got more activity from us doing like shenanigans, and so like we've tried it a few times and it hasn't necessarily made more stuff happen.
Yeah,
but we haven't seen any evidence that shows the counter either, because it's been like dead even. We've got just as much evidence ramped up as we've got not ramped up. So I think at that point we have to improve the experiment. But if you're so ramped up that you're negating all your controls in the process where you can't verify anymore, then yes, you've crossed the line.
I was going to say whenever you're presenting it also, because if you're doing the recording and you're freaking out and then you get back and you realize there's nothing there to substantiate why you were acting that way, you might be more prone to go, well, I did hear something here, so we can just kind of... So it wouldn't be... Our group doesn't do that. There's probably groups out there that
there's
do.
a lot of times where, when I'm going through the presentation out, and, I tag somebody heard something here, but we didn't capture it on any recordings. But we're also notating our psychological state at the time. Like, oh, everybody was kind of running around like it could be one of us. Like,
yeah.
So somebody heard it, but we didn't capture it. So
we're
there's
fine
no
with
proof that it's there.
But other groups, if they're amped up, they might try to make it seem like there's a reason why I was over.
Right, just because somebody did that. There was something over there. Oh, you didn't capture it, so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
No point in the game.
No point. 0 points for you, sir.
What? You look like you're wanting to bust my balls.
No, I was just listening.
Oh, there's a lot of comments.
Spirits comes to energy that humans put out. Okay, and like I said, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but with the goal of our group to document things, I would really like to come up with some way to measure energy output of people, because it's not an electrical... I get really tired of the guys coming up to the table and being like, the body produces EMF. Okay, but there is no electrical out... It's not that. It's absolutely not that. They're not. So we're talking about emotional energy here. So I wish that there was some way, I haven't hit that genius and epiphany moment myself yet to design that experiment. If somebody else can come up with it, that'd be great. But to measure emotional output of the body, because it's not something that's measurable unless hormones, chemical levels,
heart rate, I don't know.
Heart rate, maybe blood pressure would be. What are some of the biological factors to having an emotional response?
Elevated heart rate, elevated blood pressure.
So is there
elevated
a way we
body temperature?
So we move around a lot in our investigations.
It'd have to be someone who's still, and we've done baselines for a pretty long time, and.
I mean, would wearing a Fitbit? I don't know.
And measure your heart rate.
But I like that mode of thinking. I don't want to completely say that it's trash that, spirits are attracted to the energy of people. But I do want to note, okay, I get everybody saying that, but there is no physical basis for that, because it's an unmeasurable thing. It's real easy for somebody to come in and claim something and say, it's this, when it's something that can't be proved either way. So I would love for somebody to come up with a way to measure.
Yeah. It's like Catherine saying negative emotional climate is said to draw things, but not necessarily spirits. That's
right. I've always heard demons or whatnot feed on that negative. That's why they're there. They're there to terrify.
One of the questions we ask people when we go into, like, they're having a residential haunting, is there any upset that's been going on? Because I've always heard that too. So we do.
Have you guys ever been afraid of going into a haunted place with knowing there are a lot of paranormal events, with hoping you will come up with good evidence?
I'm never afraid going into a place. I just assume it's
all
crap.
I'm too stupid to be afraid going into it.
I never believe what anybody else says about anything being haunted.
Yeah, I have to see it to believe it. And if I don't see it, then I'm not scared. So, I'm never...
That is not true.
What?
You didn't see nothing in that bathroom? You sure ran out of there in a flash?
Saw complete darkness
and
a thing going.
I don't remember. It's out of my infinity thing, so it's I think it's Jim Beam, actually.
Boo.
I think it's Black Label.
Oh.
Redneck.
The only specific thing I got instructions to look up was the thing that you told me to look up. So I looked up.
This is a short-term psychosis.
Which is involved with the fear and things being attracted to it, or maybe not. So the whole people saying that things are more attracted to you, it's actually more likely, according to science, that you're just reacting in an odd manner and therefore seeing and hearing things. So a short-term psychosis. So if you get afraid enough in a situation, then you can start to hallucinate. You have delusions. You have disorganized thinking. You're disoriented. You're confused. You have memory issues. And any of that can happen just from something scaring you and you not having good enough coping skills. Or if it's something related to PTSD, if you've been traumatized from it in the past, then it's more likely to happen.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's saying that things are more attracted because of fear, it's also possible that you're just so afraid that you are their brain's making it up.
Well,
And
that was my mode of process.
Yeah.
You're so scared that you're actually hallucinating.
yeah. So it causes short-term psychosis. If you are so scared, your brain is going to start making you more scared by...
Right, which is what the purpose of the investigative monitoring is, which would be the CCTV, the camera, all the documentation, so that because a recorder isn't biased. Like if it shows up on a tape recorder, or if it shows up on a video recorder or something like that, like you can't scare the video camera, so it's not going to get hyped up. So it's that completely unbiased kind of looking at it. And so, you know, we get asked a lot of times, like, well, why do you go at night, whatever? And I always give an honest response, like, first off,
less traffic.
We
less
do go
light
during the
pollution.
day, but we go at night.
I've got kids. Everyone's got daytime jobs.
Right. We also go at night because there's a lot of lighting experiments that we do, too, because we want to see if things show up in different types of lighting,
There's
things like
less
that.
traffic. There's
Yeah,
less people.
Sound pollution,
But
less light pollution.
if we're being 100% honest with our viewership, some of it is because we want to induce that fear state.
Get that adrenaline going when the fear and
Right,
darkness.
because it does heighten your abilities. It does cause that, you know, if we're going to test if things are more drawn to you when, like, you're anxious, or, you know, we have those heightened emotional states when you can't really see everything that's going on in the dark, sort of thing. That's when you're prone to have those experiences. And then when we're having because those experiences pop up more often in the dark, in the night, when no one's coming.
Thanks,
Dun, dun.
House on Haunting of Hill House. Is that? But Catherine mentioned that everybody reacts to fear physiologically, like differently, which is a good point because I have tachycardia pretty frequently. So measuring my heart rate's probably not your best bet. Or, you know, some people have that crosswire of the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system, so their heart rate might
that was a
actually
medical
slow.
thing I was going to ask. So I looked up a bunch of cases, and they stopped diagnosing this like back in like 1952 was the last case I saw. But I found about 30 cases where people were documented of dying of fright. That used to be a thing that the coroner would put down there. And basically it meant heart attack or whatever. Can fear really induce, like, you know, they say, like, oh, if you go to a haunted house and you have heart problems, things like that. Is that actually true? Can you get so scared? I understand if you're totally healthy, no.
Well, if you already have heart problems, anxiety and stress can cause heart attacks. So
Yeah.
why couldn't fear?
I was
Well,
gonna say
because
the
I've heard you
stress.
can't die of I have panic attacks all the time. The doctor's like, you can't die of a panic attack. What if I have an undiagnosed heart condition? I mean, it does affect your blood pressure, heart rate, things like that. Can fear mess with your system so much that it could actually kill you, like with a heart condition or are there any conditions you could have where fear would actually kill you?
I don't know for sure, but I would suspect that.
Heart problems.
Yeah, heart problems.
I just wonder if the body would protect itself enough that it
Oh,
wouldn't
no.
it wouldn't let its own mental state do that.
No, especially even if you have mental issues, not even including physical, but if you have just bad anxiety problems, your brain obviously doesn't have the coping mechanism to stop you from panicking, overly panicking.
Yeah, and to be
So-
clear, I'm not talking about like, oh, I get so scared that I turn around and run in the middle of the night and jump
Yeah.
off a cliff, or I get so scared that I kill myself. I just mean can you get so scared that a part of your body might shut down somehow or overreact and like, oh, my body produced so much adrenaline that it made my brain shut off? I don't know if that's a thing.
I don't know either. I didn't actually look into anybody dying from it, but I think the body doesn't protect itself as well as you think.
Says Dr. Robert Glatter, an emergency physician at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York. When people feel an overwhelming fear, their fight or flight response jumps into action. This response likely benefited early humans when they faced a menacing beast or aggressor, giving them the necessary adrenaline to either fight the attacker or flee the scene, Glatter said. The rush of adrenaline is an involuntary response controlled by the autonomic nervous system. When faced with a fight or flight scenario, a person will experience rapid heart, blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, increased levels of adrenaline can damage the heart. When adrenaline is released, it triggers calcium channels in the heart to open. Calcium rushes into the heart cells, which causes the heart muscle to contract strongly. Basically, in a massive response, the calcium keeps on pouring in and the heart muscles can't relax. If a person is scared and has a large amount of adrenaline reaching his or her heart, the individual can develop an arrhythmia called ventricular fibrillation, an uncoordinated contraction of the heart that makes it quiver, not beating regularly as it should. It ultimately leads to a drop in blood pressure because without blood for the brain, you lose consciousness. And, it can
So that
happen
answers that question.
even in normal, healthy people. It doesn't have to be a person with a pre-existing heart condition, although those would be at higher risk.
So somebody could technically die on a paranormal investigation from being scared bad enough under the right circumstance. It's it's obviously very, very rare, but it can happen.
Yeah.
I wanted to go through some of these comments here. There is a machine that measures that, a lie detector. Oh, we were talking about...
Well, yeah, because it measures your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your body temperature.
Right, but that's actually a series of different machines that are monitoring, too.
They're also complete crap.
Everyone reacts
they're not complete crap. They're not admissible in court because they can be flawed. Mm-hmm. But if a person does react to lying, they can detect a lie.
Okay.
They're not completely off the board.
What would be the best advice that you would give Ghost House Paranormal Team? That's it. Okay, we'll go around. Marianne wants to know what is the best advice that we could give another paranormal team. Well, for our brand of investigation, I would say total objectivity in your investigation is best, because if you seem biased in your investigation when you're doing it, it makes your evidence less credible, I guess. So the best advice I have is that always have some sort of control set up in your investigation. Be that, even if you don't go to the extent that we do, where we have a bunch of cameras, a bunch of different backup equipment, things like that.
Only half of us know what's going on, and the other half don't.
Right. Yeah, we use controls where only half of us know what the background of the location is. Half of us know what's going on. We always have somebody functioning in the group as an outside observer that's not really partaking in the experiments. So usually it's whoever's documenting it with the camera at the time. That's usually Don. Mm-hmm. And so he would be, or Don, or you in a lot of cases too. Mm-hmm. You're usually back watching the static cams, but you're not necessarily looking for the paranormal stuff. You're looking for how we're reacting to it. Don's kind of looking for paranormal stuff that happens, but he's not actively participating in the EVP experiments, mm-hmm. or trying to interact with it in any way. So we always have this kind of third party that's observing us, observing the paranormal. And I think that's a really good system that we've worked out, because it helps keep us honest. Because if I feel like I'm having an experience or something, and Don's right behind me watching it, and he's like, dude, you're just wigged out. That's completely different than where Bagans and his group of two go in, and they're all having an experience, and you really can't rely on them for their commentary on each other and how things were. So there's that level of brokenness. So I think control is having some sort of control, some kind of external way to watch yourselves, what you're doing, to help kind of keep yourselves organized. Also, I think using the minimum amount of people possible on an investigation is always good, because the more people you have in there, the more chance there is for contaminating your experiment, because the biggest contamination to paranormal investigation is the investigators. Any investigating you can do where it's just you leave a piece of equipment in a room and you don't do anything in there and you stay the hell away from it, that's the best experiment we can do. That's why it was so good when we left you at Needful Things, because you just sat in there and you didn't do anything. You didn't try doing EVPs, anything like. You just sat there and listened, and we let all the equipment do everything. It wasn't you interacting with it. You were just there for the experience. What advice would you give? Is our EVP person? What advice would you give for doing good? Because you get really good EVPs.
My advice for my ghost hunting is the same as I would give somebody for a relationship: communication. What I'm going to do EVPs now. I'm going to count 8 Mississippis. Shut up while I do it. I'm feeling anxious. Why don't you take over for a minute so I can step back and chill out? I'm going to take 2 pictures. It's going to make a noise. Oh, I just coughed. That was me.
Oh, yeah. That was me shifting on the floor.
Yeah.
That was me making
Communicate.
that noise.
If you're honestly too scared to go into a place, don't do it. That's the other one.
There have been a few times that me and you have actually turned back because we didn't feel safe.
And that's especially if you're going, like, we do a lot of outside investigations in Texas in the spring and fall when there's a lot of predators. And
yeah, because ghosts aren't the only thing that can get you in a location. I mean, especially out here.
Yeah, people and predators.
Hobos and stuff like that. What would you say?
I don't really have any fantastic advice other than keep your expectations low.
Prepare to be bored.
If you go into a place that they have so much things have happened in there and you go in there expecting so much things to happen, you're either going to mess up your control and go in there biased, or you're going to be so disappointed that you're not going to want to return. And I think people need to kind of keep an even expectation going into any place. Don't just go to famous places. Go to random places and go to places you don't even know what the stories are.
I think it's important to go to random places that don't have that bad. First off, that's how we found like the most haunted place on the planet. Yeah. But we do that because we need a control.
Yeah.
When Emilio says people can't be controls because they're mentally influenced by the environment. So what we mean by that is they don't know the specific story. So we go into someone's house who says they're haunted. Well, they don't know that they heard scratching on this wall or that so-and-so died in the house. Yeah. They don't know what stories.
Yeah, usually when we go in, like, half the people will go off and hear all the things. And the only thing, I'm usually part of the control because I don't like to know. I go in just knowing this is a house. They've seen something, I suppose. That's all I know.
Because we suspect that in a lot of cases, people are seeing things because they've been told there are things there.
Yeah.
One of the experiments we haven't had a chance to run yet was, I take that back. I did do it one time. We didn't make an episode out of it, but when we went to the cabin in Granbury, I fed false information to half the group about one of the experiences. And that was that somebody got pushed down the stairs to the attic, that the previous group that had gone in there to do a paranormal investigation got halfway up the stairs and one of the guys got pushed back down. That was a false thing. That didn't happen. And the idea behind was
you were the one that got wigged out in that attic.
Those stairs were so steep, though.
You were influenced by your own story.
I didn't get wigged out.
You didn't want to go up there.
Those stairs are so steep.
They were very steep.
It was just scary up there. It wasn't because of my story. It was just creepy.
Man, so I stood off balance at the top of those stairs trying to get fucking EVPs for no good reason.
Yeah.
You're a dick.
But you didn't get a false positive on it. So, I was wondering if somebody would feel like that they got pushed or if they would get more results upstairs thinking that somebody had got results upstairs when nobody had got results. The only results that had been got there that was factual was that they had got some EVPs in the other room.
And that flagpole across the street was so loud.
Catherine, that is why we go back to places repeatedly, is because, like I lived in my mom's house. I thought it was haunted, but like only 10 things happened over the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
Most nights were absolutely fine.
Yeah, that would be my other bit of evidence or advice to other groups is go back multiple times and evaluate your evidence over multiple trips, not just one. Just because I get a bunch of sounds on this one trip doesn't mean and then on the next trip I don't get them. Well, compare what was different between the 2 nights. Was it raining one night and not raining the other night? Were there different environmental conditions that could have contributed to some of that? You know, you have to take evidence over a course of multiple investigations. Just
and from different people. You have to have everybody listen to something. You can't just say, oh, I heard this thing and that's what it is. You also play it for everyone else. Did they also hear it? Did they hear the same thing as you? You can't be the only person looking through evidence. You have to, again, it goes with the communication, I suppose, you all have to look at it and see if you're also hearing.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about, Emilio, is that if some of the people know the story and they start getting scared, we try to see how that compares to the other people's experience. Because
but he's right, they can't influence the people that
we can. I think what we're leaving out of it is a lot of times when, like, say all 4 of us go or all 5 of us go to one location, we're not usually all 5 in the same room doing the same experiments.
Oh, we separate.
We pair off. Things like that.
One person doesn't talk to anybody.
But no, the way we wanted to run that experiment is to take 2 separate groups and put them through the same, and they don't get a chance to talk to each other. They don't get a chance to communicate. And then you put one group through and you feed them one set of information. And then you let another group go through and you either don't tell them anything or you give them an opposing set of information. I just want to see what the statistic is on how many people see something in line with the information they're fed. Because me and Steven used to invite people over and then tell them stories about our house. And so many people saw this little girl in the bathroom upstairs where no one had ever... That wasn't even a story there. But everyone... saw
something, right?
And it was always interesting to me. I just thought it was interesting that people can be so influenced by just a story based on someone they barely know.
Yeah.
Like, some of these people I'd only met once before they came over, and I'm telling them the story, and they are so convinced that they see something.
Well, also, I think it's easier to lie to people that you don't know very well, too. Right, you have that instinct to kind of trust people that, you know, 'cause you can, since you don't know them really well, you can be more confident about what you're saying and be more convincing in your story, sort of thing.
Yeah, because they don't know your tics.
So people are more ready to accept facts from people they don't know than people that they trust. It's a weird contradiction, but it's...
Steven said the girl in the mirror.
Yeah. Remember you guys tried to tell me that, and I was like, I don't fucking see anything. What are you talking about? I lived with you guys for like 3 years.
Now, there is a story about the little girl in my house, but that was in the kitchen.
Yeah. And then there's the guy with the blood and fire. But...
Oh, that was my 2-year-old.
Yeah. I know. Fear's a crazy thing. It does crazy things to our crazy brains.
So we did an episode on why kids might be more prone to experiencing the supernatural. Are kids more prone to being afraid since they're less experienced in the world? Do you think maybe that's a factor into it?
I actually think that up until a certain age, they're less prone to be afraid.
Oh, because that fear's not put
and they
into
don't
them yet.
know. They don't know why the dark should be scary. Like, Andrew hit about 6 months before he started screaming in his closet, because that's when he realized, I can't see in there. There could be something. Before that, they don't have fear, and like up until they're a certain age, they don't have like a natural fear of snakes. I noticed my kids would just run up and grab any old animal, pet any old dog. With just no fear. They want to climb on the roof, no fear. But then at a certain age, they do seem to get overly fearful.
Yeah, the study I was reading was saying that the younger ones don't have the crazy fears, but then they start developing fears of things that are ridiculous, and then that kind of adds to the resilience of it also. So they are more afraid, but also more resilient to the fear. It's kind of a weird...
Yeah.
Stephen says there's scratch marks on the back of that mirror.
Sure.
Let's take it apart and see.
I think Jonathan's the one that got scratched in the downstairs bathroom.
Huh? You didn't tell me that one.
Yeah, when we were living there, Jonathan came bolting upstairs one day.
Yeah. In the bathroom.
And he said, I got scratched in the bathroom. Okay, dude.
Now that less people live in your house, I wouldn't mind trying to do another investigation there at some point. Yeah. I might actually be brave enough to go into Andrew's old room now and turn off the light and lay there.
Oh, God.
Y'all are digging with me so hard.
I think there's actually a pattern on the drywall in the back of his closet that makes it look like there's a person back there. Because so many people have seen it, I think it's actually a pattern on the drywall.
Like the way that because it's got the
Yeah,
really
the like
thick-
popcorn stuff.
Yeah,
like,
so it kind of has like
I
a
think
thickness.
I think it's that.
It might be.
I think it has to do with it being an older house.
I stared into that closet for a while, and after a long time, my
What
brain
age would
did
be
start saying.
afraid of the dark is 9 months, normally young. Well, like I said, Andrew was about 6 or 7 months when he started screaming at the closet. So I think fear of the dark would be around 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Would be pretty normal for it to start setting in.
Well, and that's also when they're relying on their vision more too, to like recognize parents as opposed to not parents or whatever. So in bad lighting conditions or when it's completely pitch black, they're going to feel more vulnerable because the only way they can communicate is to make screams and sounds until somebody comes to the
rescue.
to do something.
Yeah.
So Allie sent in our F, Marry, Kill picks for this
Ooh.
episode.
Oh God.
Which, you know, they're themed. They have to do with fear. Initially, she wanted to do F, Marry, Kill with weird phobias. I'll tell you those first. Those aren't the final picks we're going with, but
okay.
But it's papophobia, which is
Fear of the Pope.
Fear of the Pope. Kinemorphobia, fear of zombies.
Ooh.
And achondroplassiophobia is a fear of little people.
Oh God.
Now, I don't know how we F, Marry,
Well, that's
Kill.
what I told her, is it would be almost impossible to play Marry Kill with inanimate objects.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do the Pope, zombie, and a little person, but then I feel like we might say something really prejudiced towards
Yeah,
little people, and I don't want to. I don't want to do that one. So the other one she sent in was the Scarecrow from Batman because he uses fear as a weapon.
Okay.
The Fear Demon from Buffy.
Buffy.
And she said Pinhead. She's not sure if he counts, but it's fun, and he has such sights to show you.
Oh God.
Kristen goes first.
What are they again? Pinhead,
The
Fear-
Scarecrow, Fear Demon, and Pinhead.
I can't answer this one because I haven't seen all of Buffy. I
It's
don't
a
know what the
tiny
fear
midget demon
is.
that instills fear.
Well, you can't have sex with it,
But when it
obviously.
pops up, it's actually tiny.
You could, if you can use a pocket vibrator, you can use a Fear Demon.
Just stick it all up in there, I guess. I'm not gonna answer first. I gotta think about that.
Okay, fine. I'm going to marry Pinhead.
Such sights.
I'm going to marry Pinhead. Yes. I am going to kill the Fear Demon, and I'm going to Scarecrow.
So I'm gonna say.
I need your reasons behind all that.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to marry Pinhead because then he's not going to kill me.
He might.
He
still.
doesn't kill you anyway. He just takes you to hell and tortures you
I
for
don't
all
want to go to
eternity.
hell. I'm going to be
It's
such
heaven
an
for
awesome,
some.
I'm going to be such an awesome wife that he is going to treat me well, and I'm going to watch him torment other people.
Okay.
I'm going to kill the Fear Demon because it's tiny and useless.
Step on it.
Yeah.
How did they kill it in
They
the
stepped on
episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm going to Scarecrow because I only have to do it once, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sounds like a terrifying experience, but it's only going to last, what, 2 minutes?
That's mostly just kinky. Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Someone's just bumping their mic like nuts this whole episode.
It's not me.
I think it's her. I think it's her.
It's Kristen. God damn it,
That's
Kristen.
what it is.
Damn it, Kristen.
I wasn't doing it
God,
on purpose.
Kristen.
Jeez.
I did it.
Who
on
are you going to
purpose. Okay,
marry?
I'm gonna marry Scarecrow because he's a doctor, has money. I'm gonna.
Oh, and built-in medical care.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that helps for the next episode.
I'm going to fuck Hellraiser because he has such sights to show me. They're probably gonna be awfully sadistic, but one time. And I guess I'll kill the Fear Demon and just squash the little bug. Here you go.
If you marry someone, do you have to also have sex with them?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. That's
So I don't have
Who
to sleep
does-
with Pinhead.
who does that?
You have sex after you're married? Ew.
Why would I get married if I still have to keep doing that?
I'm gonna kill Pinhead.
Oh, poor Pinhead.
I just don't want to deal with that.
I used to have the dreams where I married Freddy Krueger to keep him from killing me.
I'm gonna marry the Fear Demon because then I can convince him to go, like, screw with other people for me.
You just carry him around in your pocket and like dump him off at
Yeah.
the office.
And I'm gonna F Scarecrow because he's got that wicked, awesome gimp mask.
Does he wear the bag over his head?
Yeah. Go wake up the gimp. Let's see. We got a few more comments. Do you have a mother that isn't
She was
feeling
asking
well?
Catherine.
Oh, Catherine. Okay, well that just seems like it's unfolding
Did
on
she
its
miss
own.
our psychic episode?
I don't know.
Aw.
I don't have psychic powers though, so I don't know how I
I
would help
do.
anybody.
I knew you were gonna say trepidation. Dun 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 dun.
Because it's a cool word.
It is
That's
a
just
fun
the
word.
process of elimination, yo.
Also, context clues.
Anything else, guys, on fear?
It's scary.
I'm terrified.
So for those of you that don't know or you haven't been to our page in a while, this Saturday we are doing a presentation / kind of open investigation at the A.W. Perry History Museum for their paranormal porch panel. They're doing it a little different this year. We're going to give a presentation on the porch, kind of talking about what we do, a little bit about like the equipment, some of the experiments we do. We'll have a table set up where we're going to be selling and signing copies of the book, and then we're going to be allowed to take some small tour groups in one at a time through the house, which we've actually done an investigation there. It's one of the chapters in the book. We're going to talk about the things that have happened in some of the individual rooms, some of the things that we documented, and then we're going to do some, I guess we're going to do some SB Spirit Box sessions. EVPs are kind of hard to do during the day with big crowds or whatever, so I think the SB7 will be good. We'll show the proper way to use EMF detectors, and we'll do some examples of how to do paranormal investigation as best we can, and we'll kind of go through there. And then after that, they'll probably play a preview of our A.W. Perry Museum episode, the teaser, just because it's fun. But they're also going to show the original Night of the Living Dead on a big, like, 200-inch screen on the side of the barn outside. That's all provided that the weather is good. Right now it's projected to be sunny and clear, and so everything's on. But Texas weather has been kind of nuts lately, so if things get out of hand, they're gonna shut that down, and if that happens, we'll definitely put something out. Maybe we'll do an auxiliary podcast episode that day or something like that to make up for it, or maybe go over some evidence live. But that should be cool, and it's totally free. It's family friendly. It's in Carrollton, Texas. Just look up A.W. Perry History Museum, and it starts at 5 o'clock on Saturday. I also wanted to say hi to the Unseen Paranormal team, who actually mentioned us in some of our research at a presentation they were doing a couple of days ago. So I wanted to say hi to them. They're actually a really cool team. They are more on the science side like we are. And they kind of found us because they found my article on the phone apps, and so they were actually doing this like really extensive testing of a bunch of different phone apps, and they proved a few of them just repeat what you say just a little bit later, and they got blasted pretty bad for it, but they didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And so they got blasted the same way I did. So I want to show
You can't handle the truth?
yeah, phone apps are not really a thing. But that's what we got going on Saturday. We published a few articles on the website. You should go check those out. And then we're still accepting donations for our EEG
Machines.
Yeah. Anybody else got anything?
Tune in after this for
Next week,
Strictly Sickly.
next week we're going to try to do the Mothman.
Dun dun.
I want to do the Mothman so bad because I've been looking at nonstop moth memes for like 2 weeks. So I want to do the Mothman now. And then after this episode, here in a few minutes, if you want to jump over to the Strictly Sickly page, Sarah and Kristin will be having what's the name of y'all's episode coming up?
I don't know. We're interviewing people in
Spouses of people
well, not
that
spouses, just
Significant
significant others
of
people with chronic illness.
of people with chronic illness. Part 1.
So chronic illness and romantic relationships.
Yeah. There's 4 parts to it. This will be part 1.
I gotta finish my bourbon before I close this out.
Yeah, but it's going to be a
chug,
4-part kind of episode.
Okay, so see you guys next week, and if you're fans of Strictly Sickly, be sure to tune in for that. We'll catch you guys
On the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did and you would like to know more about NT Paranormal and our research, please visit us at www.ntparanormal.com. NT Paranormal. You can also check out our book, After Dark Paranormal Investigations, True Cases of the NT Paranormal Team on Amazon.com, or find our articles in Paranormal Hauntings Magazine. Before we go, we would also like to thank our supporters at Paranormal Hauntings Magazine, Paranormal Investigations Equipment, PIE, Ghost House Paranormal, the Granbury Paranormal Expo, and the Tyler Paranormal Conference. Until next time, everyone stay safe out there and stay open-minded.